All right. If one of you can let me know if you can still hear me, then we're good to go and I'll dive in. So all I need is a thumbs up from one of you that you can hear me or a comment. Shamsul, Cindy, anybody? Monica, thank you. All right. So today, what I'm going to show in this training or help you walk through it, if you want to follow along, you can follow along as well. I will be using Google Analytics demo store and Google Analytics account for the e-commerce store that Google has for this training. I will also be showing you. So first, I will show you. Yeah, great. I'm going to be watching at the screen to see any comments that come through. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them there and I will answer them. I will stop in the middle to make sure every question is answered because it's critical for me that you guys understand it. That's the whole point of me doing it. I love doing these trainings. I've been doing this for pretty much 16 years. I've been teaching analytics and do these free trainings for at several places now with COVID and all, it's all online. So I'm trying to bring as much education as I can to you guys. Cool. So where was I? Yes, I was talking about Google Analytics. So yesterday, Google Analytics or Google announced that Google Analytics 4 is out, which is a new name for app plus web that you might have seen in Google Analytics. Those who are familiar with it. If you're not familiar, that's fine. We'll cover those, the details that you need. So I will be covering current version of Google Analytics, and then I will also switch over and show you Google Analytics 4. Now it's brand new because I wasn't paying too much attention while it was in beta. They have changed a bunch of stuff. They have reorganized a bunch of stuff. That's why, to play and train on beta is kind of dangerous because things change. And I'm sure they'll still change as we progress. But it looks pretty solid now. So I'll show you, and then I will conduct full training on the new version later. So maybe within a few weeks or months, depending on how much interest I get. So you guys get to vote on what training is next. What I'm hearing from others is they want to learn about Google Data Studio. So that might be the next one. But again, I leave these trainings open on Optisant Academy. So you can go there and sign up. The more signups I get on a particular training, that's the one I choose to actually conduct training on. So Google Analytics for beginners is what we're doing today. Let me go through these slides, make sure. Yep, right here. So about me, those who don't know me or haven't taken any classes from me, so I just want to give them a quick overview who I am and why you should be listening to me. Is there anybody here? I'm sure there are, right? Who have taken classes from me or we have interacted in past, whether it's the classes in the universities, Digital Analytics Association, Udemy, on Optisant Academy, workshops, etc. Please say yes so I know how many are there. And those who are not my students, I hope you will become my student after hearing what I have to say here. And then I'll help you explore your career in digital and web analytics. So me, 20 plus years in digital marketing and analytics. I've been doing this before it was even called web analytics. Yeah, please let me know if you have ever taken any of my classes. Just type that in comments here. I have bachelor's of technology from India, which is in electronics engineering. So that was years ago. And then I did master's in engineering from University of Tennessee, came to US after my graduation from India and went to University of Tennessee for a master's. And then did my MBA from University of Washington, which is where I also have taught classes after I graduated from there. But basically, I was a developer. Once I started my career, I was doing not app development, but software development at that point, mainly dealing with the databases. And data has always been part of what I have done in my career. So did a lot of front-end development, back-end development, as well as web development. This is where I got interested in digital and web analytics. At that time, it wasn't even called web analytics or digital analytics. Just got interested in the data that was being produced, and using that data, how do you make business decisions is where my focus went. And that's why I also wanted to learn on the business side of things and did my MBA. I'm a frequent speaker at various conferences. I was also on the board of DAA, Digital Analytics Association. I was instrumental in bringing digital analytics symposium to local levels. Because before I became a board member, I wasn't even a member of the association. I did not see a reason to become a member. One of the board members who was leaving his seat, and then there were new elections coming up, or every year we have elections. And he called me and said, "Hey, do you want to be on the board?" I said, "Well, I'm not even a member." So immediately, that was the last day. He got me, forms, etc., nominated my name. Then I participated in the election and became a board member. So my main thing was, if I was not a member, how will others be members? So that's why I started to bring education, because that has always been my passion. So brought that to DAA, and I conduct Digital Analytics Association's classes that happen twice a year. These are in-depth classes on digital analytics and applying advanced digital analytics. I lead digital marketing. I led digital marketing and analytics for various agencies, working with various Fortune 500 clients and as well as smaller clients. Build the teams from scratch, and then I started a company back in 2007, which we sold in 2008. It was profitable quickly, so we sold it in 2008, and since then I worked for several agencies and also startups. Teaching, University of Washington. Microsoft, I ran a long program for Microsoft, teaching them how to be data-driven and conduct A/B testing. So Microsoft, different groups are different level of maturity in terms of usage of data. And I was working with their internal experimentation platform, which is A/B testing platform, to help evangelize the value of data-driven product development, web development, and how do you conduct A/B test, etc. University of British Columbia, which had the first program in digital analytics, and then Bellevue College. So I still run programs for them. 30,000 students in 152 countries. This is a map, about 30,000, I would say. I think they're getting more than 30,000 now, but map showing where the students are all over the world. So I feel kind of proud of that fact. All right, I'm also running a program. So this is my sales pitch, and then we'll dive in. Most comprehensive program in the world, which is the Digital and Web Analyst program. I built this program for other places as well. And I teach online, practical, hands-on project. The only one that actually lets you practice on a real site. So you are actually working on a real business. Learn Google and Adobe tools, so you will get a chance to play with them. Weekly sessions with me, possibility of freelance work after you complete it. So you kind of get your money back after you are gone through it. Help with resume, industry connection. I would say this is the best deal. Nobody guarantees anything, but I'm kind of giving you option to even get a possibility of freelance work. So I'll help you through that. Universities will charge you, $40,000 or $50,000, and still there is no guarantee. People come to me and say, "Well, can you guarantee a job?" No, I can't guarantee a job because you're not paying me 100,000. If you pay me 100,000 like you'll pay to a university, I guarantee you a job. So if you're interested, contact me because batch is starting now. All right, these are some of the clients I have worked for. Now we'll dive into Google Analytics. So what is Google Analytics? Google Analytics is a free digital analytics software. So what do you mean by digital analytics, right? It allows you to measure the impact of your digital channels, website being one. That's why it was called web analytics before it became digital analytics. Collect, report, and analyze detail about visitors on your website or app, and then also help you understand how your marketing is performing. So you have this tool that allows you to see what your users are doing on your site and where they're coming from, etc. Then you can use that information to create better customer experience and ROI from your digital marketing efforts. That's what the purpose of web and digital analytics is: to collect, analyze, report, analyze, provide those insights that you can use to improve customer experience, ROI from your marketing, achieve your goals, whatever your goals are at a given time. That's what web analytics is. People always confuse, and this is one of the messages I always give. Before I dive into Google Analytics, I give this lecture on what is the purpose of digital and web analytics. People forget that purpose. They're always like, can I track this? Can I track this? This is one of the issues that bug me a lot. There are so many experts in the market who will tell you, like, you should track this. This is a hack to track this. Here's a JavaScript to track that. Here's what you do it. And people spend so much time figuring that out and forgetting the purpose of digital and web analytics. What is the purpose? Purpose is to improve customer experience, create better outcome for the business and the customers, right? Tracking every single thing is not going to get you there. What that's going to do is create your report that people will look and say, interesting. But interesting does not mean actionable, and it does not mean valuable. So keep that in mind. I am all for like tracking fewer things as long as you can drive the value from that. There is already tons of value already out of box in Google Analytics that you can use. Even if you use 50%, less than 50% of that, you'll be way better off than many people who are in the industry doing this stuff. So don't get caught up in, I need to know JavaScript. I need to know this. I need to know how to track this HTML, CSS. No. If you are going to become an implementation expert, sure, then you become the technical side, which helps put the tool together. But that's not really the purpose of what analytics is. So Google Analytics, when you look at it and say, see the reports, think about what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? And what can we learn from it? To track a website or an app, what you do is when you create a Google Analytics account, and I'll go into Google Analytics so you can see it. You create Google Analytics account, you get a small piece of JavaScript tracking code that you put on your every page on your site. If you're using a WordPress site, then there are plugins to do that. There are tools like Tag Manager, Google Tag Manager, Adobe Tag Manager, which is Launch, they allow you to do this so that you don't have to put this tracking code on every page. You just put the Google Tag Manager or any tag manager's code. So this piece of JavaScript that you put captures tons of information about your users. So here is how you get to that code. If you already have a Google Analytics account, you'll go to admin property. So you have the admin panel, which you can get from this wheel. You get the property. Within property settings or tracking code, you can get this code. And once that code is available to you, you put it in the head section of each page. This is critical. I have seen over and over again where people put this code and then they're missing pages which doesn't have code. That means your tracking is broken. Garbage data is being collected. Garbage in, garbage out. So you can't make any decisions based on that data. Every time a user visits a page, the tracking code gets executed. It collects information about users' interaction with the page. That's how it works in simple terms. Tracking code, since it's JavaScript, it also collects information from browser, such as the language the browser is set to, the type of browser, etc., the device and operating systems used by user to come to the site, traffic source, where is the user coming from, etc. So all that information gets collected. JavaScripts are very powerful because they have direct interaction with the browser, so they can track tons of information. And this is what the tag managers do to learn about user scrolling, playing, downloading a file, playing a video, etc. So this small piece of JavaScripts collect every single piece of data about the user. You can pass in lots of information to this JavaScript that gets then passed to analytics tool. All data after collection is compiled in Google Analytics report. This is critical that once you have these reports that they are processed, you can't change them. So all the information that you want to pass, you have to think through that, what to pass. This is where the implementation kind of role comes into play, or the first thinking about what do we want to achieve comes into play. Once you understand, hey, here's the business objective, these are the things we want to measure. And I have a template that I use in my classes where I teach how to collect this information on what to track and how to track, etc. It's a requirements document that all my team goes through when we first onboard a client. Use these reports to perform, once you have that data, you use these reports to perform in-depth analysis to better understand customer, their behavior, intent, preferences, purchase journey, etc. Like you are understanding what these customers are doing. This analysis leads to insights, right? That's what you're trying to get. Always remember insights to improve customer experience, what your business is about. So I just talked about this one. The tracking code collects the activity on every page. Google Analytics group all these activities of users. And so that data is collected. Now, when Google is processing this data, you'll see session, right? Session count in Google. These things are by collecting all the activities of a user into one grouping. A session starts when the user first comes to the site and then has executed this code, and by default, it ends after 30 minutes. So if a user does not do anything for 30 minutes, the session ends. As long as users keeps clicking on any page or any do some action that is tracked, then you can, the session will never end. If the user returns to a page after a session ends, new session begins. So you can close the browser and still come back within 30 minutes to the site. The session will continue from the previous one. So closing the browser does not impact it. Tracking code collects data and sends it to Google Analytics. Google Analytics processes data, aggregates and organizes the data, and the configuration settings such as filters, critical aspect. So you collect the data, sends it to Google Analytics. Google Analytics is processing based on the rules that you have set. And I'll show you what those filters mean. You can decide what data you want to see and what data you don't want to see in your reports. That's how Google organizes it. Once data is processed, it can be changed. A very important thing to remember, because people always ask, can I go back? Can I change it? No, you can't. Once it's processed, it's done. Once processing is done, it'll appear in reports. So some data elements start to show up in Google Analytics real-time report, which we'll cover. This comes in handy when you are making any changes. And Google Analytics 4 has recently announced a debug mode, which actually lets you see what your reports will see as you are configuring them. So we'll help that as well. Another thing, account structure, your Google Analytics account. Your Google account can have multiple Google Analytics account. Within one account, you can have multiple properties. Properties is a set of sites or apps that you want to capture together, report together. So if I have one site, anilbatra.com, and I also have optizen.com, for some reason, if I want to put them together in one report, then I will use them in same property. Underneath properties, you can create views. These are the things that you want to see. Like I want to see specifically how my internal to my company users are using the site. Then I can create a view. I only want to see people from India in one view. Then I can do that. Those kind of things. So this is your account structure. Remember that. I'm not going to go through this one. And we'll cover filters as I go through. So what I'm going to do is now switch over to Google Analytics and then show you all these things. Let me know if you do not see my information here. Oh, where did it go? New share, and I am going to be sharing. Okay. You guys can see my screen, right? I hope you can. If not, I'm in Google Analytics right now, and I'm showing you Google Analytics merchandise store. So if you can write a comment and say, yes, I see it, I will be confident that I'm actually going in the right direction here. So to create any account in Google Analytics, you go to admin section, or when you first come in to Google Analytics, you create an account. When you create an account, you give a name. Let's say Anil Batra account. You guys can still see it, right? Please, someone write it here so I know. Anil Batra account, click on next, and then you can pick how you want to track it. App and web, which is now called Google Analytics 4, will become the default in coming days, weeks. That's what they announced yesterday, but I still don't see it being the default. This is an old way of tracking your website, and you have to create a separate account or account for apps, etc. But I'm just going to do web at this point. This is your property. You set it up. I'm going to call it Anil Batra site. You guys can see it, right? Comment. Anil Batra site. You give your URL. Plus, yes, maybe. Okay. Pick industry, computer and electronics, and then you click create. Make sure to read these things. I accept. And here's your tracking code. That's the code that goes into the head section of every page. If you do not get this code, or you forget to copy it, you can always go back to admin panel, click on property settings or tracking code. So let's say property settings, and I can get the code right here, this one, or tracking code, the complete code right here. This code right here is property ID or tracking code. This is what you use in a WordPress site. So you don't need a full blown this code. All you can do is copy this code and put it in a WordPress plugin so that once you do it, your site will start to collect the data. If you want to know more about tracking code and how to set it up in WordPress or Blogger or your site or YouTube, etc., then I have a video on this channel that you can see. But once this code is on the site, that's when it'll start to collect the data. Once the data is collected, a user comes to your site, you will start to see them in the real-time report. So I just created it. It's not live yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to Demo Store, which is Google Demo Store. Those who do not have a site to practice on, they can use Google Demo Store. If you want to know how to get to Google Demo Store, I also have a video on this channel that you can find out how to practice Google Analytics without a site. That gives you instructions on what to do. If you can't find it, just let me know. So when the user goes to your site, real-time report will start to show what they're looking at. You got top referrals, which tells you where the users are coming from. Social traffic tells you if they're coming from social channels or not, what keywords that they are using to come to your site, and then what pages are actively on your site, like they're looking at. So for example, right here, drinkware, there are 5 active users at this time on that page. So it gives you real-time information. What is this used for? Generally, this is used to debug and make sure everything is working fine. So let's say you launch a new page or a new campaign. You want to know, hey, is anybody coming to my site? Or you made a change to track it and you want to know, is tracking working properly? You can do that in real-time reports. Real-time reports have been changed significantly in app or Google Analytics 4. I keep saying app plus web, but it's Google Analytics 4 now. You also get location, where users are coming from with the map, traffic sources, how users are finding your site, which sources they're coming from. So it seems like all of these people are directly coming to this site, and I'll go into the details on those as well. Content, what pages they are looking at. So these are details. And events. Events are those actions that are not page views. So you can track a bunch of actions such as button clicks, link clicks, image clicks, etc. In this case, they are tracking all the shopping cart actions. Anything a user does on your site can be tracked as an event. It could be just simple scrolling on the page. That can be tracked as an event. And those events will then show up here. If you want to know more about event tracking, I also have a video on that, as well as I cover all these things in my courses, but I also put free videos on the site, on the YouTube channel. And then you have any conversion tracking that you're doing, like how are people converting? Conversion is defined by you. You define what a conversion means based on your business objective. Go back to the first thing I said when I started showing you these slides. What is the purpose of the business? What is the goal that you're trying to achieve? Keep in mind, not every site that's e-commerce site is trying to make money at that given point. Purpose, remember, like Google, or I don't know how many of you remember or know when Amazon started. When Amazon started, their purpose was clearly not to be profitable. Not, they didn't say that out loud, maybe, or maybe they did, but their whole actions and everything they were trying to do showed that, profitability is not something top of their mind. What they're trying to do is get more and more third-party vendors on their platform. So that becomes your objective goal. Everything that you try to track is related to that particular goal. Every business goes through phases. When you first launch a business, you can't expect to be profitable from get-go. And some are, but some are not. Uber CEO said they will never be profitable. Why? Well, they're any money they make, they're just spending to expand. Never means ultimately maybe their goal is somebody bigger buys them. Cool. Yeah. So more and more you understand your objectives, the easier it'll become for you to track what matters to your business. When analyzing the data, think about what user does. User comes from a place, right? In. This is the framework I teach in my class. There is an in framework. Where is the user coming from in your site? On. What do they do when they're on the site? And out. Where are they leaving the site from? That is the model. If you put in your mind, you can find things to analyze and also track. So at the center of everything is user. User is defined in the audience section. So everything about the user is an audience. Who is this person? Then acquisition is how are people coming to your site? In. Where are these users coming in? That's in acquisition. How are we acquiring them? And then behavior is on. What are they doing when they're on your site? As well, it also tracks out. Conversions is also part of the behavior and out. So that's how these reports are defined or grouped. Now, this has changed in Google Analytics 4, and I will talk about that and how they have changed the whole thinking around these. But companies for a long time will continue to use this till Google says no more previous one. Because I'm seeing some comments and people are so comfortable using the old interface, and they'll continue to use that. So let's take a look at what's in audience. In the audience section, you have everything about users. Active users. So overview, every section has an overview. Overview gives you the overview, as it says, of that section. So you've got users, new users, sessions, etc. About those, how many people are coming, that's users. How many of them you're seeing for the first time during that time frame. So in each report, you have a calendar object right here. You can select a custom range, today, yesterday, etc., predefined ranges. When you change this time frame, this new user will change accordingly. So some of new users for every day does not equal to the new users for a week. Let me make sure you understand that, because this is one of the major things that people get confused all the time. Let's say if I come to your site on day one. Right now, nothing is changing. We only see one static screen. Yes, I am on the overview of audience. Can somebody else please tell me if it's changing and you guys can see it or not? I need you guys to interact with me and tell me. RC, are you seeing it changing or no? It's hard for me to tell because I can't see what you guys are seeing, but are you seeing anything on the reports or no? Share. Hi guys, can you see that it's coming up or no? No? Hello? No changing, static. Oh, so you guys should have actually told me that you guys are not able to see it, because I was assuming you're all along following what I'm showing here. That's weird. Why is this not picking up? No. Oh, that is weird. Let me just stop the share. And I am going to share again, share screen, and still no. I am sorry. I don't know what's technically going wrong here. You guys see me, right? Yeah, it's now seeing what? New share. If you can let me know what you guys are seeing, then it's much easier for me to say yes, it's working or not. Fine now. You're seeing me or you are seeing Google Analytics screen? Okay. Seems like you are seeing the Google Analytics screen. Okay, cool. Yes. Let me know if I need to go. Yes, great, great. Thank you very much. I was just getting concerned here. So here's the screen. You can see overview. I was talking about users and I was talking about new users. So how new users get calculated is for that time frame. So let's say if I come on October 9th, I'm a new user on that date. And then I come back on October 10th, then what happens is during that time, I'm just one new user for the whole time. Count. Sessions, on the other hand, are calculated based on the total count. So if I have 5 sessions on day one, 5 sessions on day two, then it'll be 10 sessions. Number of sessions per user is simply total sessions divided by user. And then page views is simply how many pages I'm viewing. Now, keep in mind, you get to define what a page view is. In ever scrolling reports or pages, have you seen like Facebook? I think every site now has this. When you keep going down, it keeps scrolling new and new stuff, right? And showing you new and new stuff. They can decide to trigger a new page when they load new stuff, or they can decide to just keep it at one page. It's entirely up to the business objective. What are we trying to learn? Based on what we are trying to learn is how you track stuff. Not because you can track everything, you should track everything. Keep that in mind always. Pages per session is how many pages were viewed when I was in one session. Average session duration. Average session duration is another point of confusion all the time. You go to a site, if you view only one page and leave, what is the average session duration? It's 0. Even if you stayed 10 minutes on that page and left, it's 0. Unless you trigger an event that you can track and say after 10 seconds or 1 minute, I'm going to trigger an event. Only then the session duration gets counted. So session duration is the duration between two actions that user takes. A user can spend 20 minutes on a page and leave, the time will still be 0. So keep that in mind when you're looking at average session duration. For blogs, which is, users usually come to one page and then leave, that's a big issue. Because when they're looking at average session duration, they're always confused. Why are people not spending more time? The reason they are not spending time, well, they are spending time. The reason you're not seeing it, because there is no subsequent page or action taken by user. And hence the session duration becomes almost close to 0. Also, if a user comes to your page and leaves, that session is counted as a bounce. So you see bounce rate. In this case, 40% of the users do not go beyond the landing page. Whichever page they come to the site, they're leaving. So that's what bounce rate tells you. Every report in Google Analytics will have some kind of these measures. So let's say if I go to audience report, this gives me audience information. Right here, you can see the users, new users, sessions, etc. And bounce rate, page session, average session duration. So all these metrics are shown in a tabular format in every report that you will see. For example, right here, you have the same information, user, new user, session, etc. And then it shows you the ages. This demographic report is based on the data collected by Google Analytics and Google. So when you log into Gmail account or a YouTube account or something, and you've given some information over to Google, that could potentially be used in this. It's not the information collected by the site itself. This information comes from ad serving data, from Google data, etc. So that's why when you're looking at these numbers, you will also, let me just go to the overview. And it's one of the most important report that I always look at, because I always start with what is our goal? Who are we trying to reach? This report tells me, are we reaching the right set of audience or not? When you go to demographic report, you'll see there are 42% of total users are counted in this report, because Google does not have information on all the users who come to your site. So you're only seeing a sample of that data. It also collects gender information. It also collects interest information. What are people interested in at any given point, at any given time? So that gives you all the information about what users are in the market. This is based on their search information and the browsing behavior. So keep that in mind. You can learn a lot about your users by looking at these reports. So if I run into a situation where I say, well, my campaign is not working, hey, I'm not seeing, or I'm not seeing as many conversions or page views, or I'm seeing a high bounce rate, I always look at this data to see, are we reaching the right audience? Do we have our messages aligned to who they are? Critical aspect. And I don't have time to go over every single report, so I'm just going to cover quickly. You also have geo information, location and language, technology they are using, critical aspect again. What are they using? Mobile, desktop, what kind of browser they are using, etc. And then you have their behavior, like how are they coming back or not, etc. And then you have cross device. This is like if they are using mobile and desktop together, then Google can connect those sessions and provide you information on what percentage of users are using multiple devices. Acquisition data shows you where users are coming from. So organic search, referral, affiliate, display, social, etc. So you can see what sources users are coming from. Always when analyzing the data, slice and dice as much as you can to understand what's happening. This is a tendency of people who are starting out in Google Analytics or digital or web analytics. They're just going to go and start to talk about, hey, we got this much bounce rate. Let's say 40% bounce rate. When you look at this data, I can tell you paid search has a very low bounce rate, right? This is affiliates have a very high bounce rate. That's the piece that provides me very actionable information to go and figure out. Rather than trying to reduce at that level, I'm trying to reduce at this level. Display, very high bounce rate. That means my display advertising is off. Just using that information, no custom tracking requirements are there, right? Using this information alone tells me where I need to focus on. If I am able to reduce that bounce rate, I can positively impact the outcome. And that's what you should look at. Static again. Now I can see it. Anybody else having the issue? Maybe refresh your page. If it becomes static, refresh the YouTube page. That might refresh it. Maybe it's some connectivity issue. I don't know what's going on. But if that happens, just hit the refresh on the browser window and let me know. I'll watch it again. So slice and dice as much as you can to find that information. I guarantee you do not have to be a genius in tracking every single thing. Believe me, if you go that route, which is I said earlier, people try to track every